Hello, everybody. I hope you are finding ways to self-advocate and thrive. And if you're looking for support in this area, then you're in the right place. I'm Lisa Reichert. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Career and Professional Development Lead within People and Organization Development at UC Berkeley People and Culture. And one of the things that helps me thrive is being out in nature, even if it's just like getting up and walking outside or walking to the backyard or even looking out the window and appreciating nature. That's something that helps me change my perspective and breathe and be present. So this workshop is our final in our 2024 Fall Now Encore series titled Embrace Your Voice, the Power of Self-Advocacy to Stand Out and Thrive, and presented by Ilhiana Rojas Saldana. It is my pleasure to introduce Ilhiana, who is a dynamic leader and advocate for transformation and empowerment. Ilhiana is the founder and owner of her own consulting practice, where she serves as a seasoned business strategist, executive, and career coach, diversity and inclusion catalyst, and international motivational speaker. With over 20 years of executive experience in Fortune 500 companies, she has coached and guided thousands of professionals and teams to unlock high-performing leadership, purpose-driven cultures, and resilient mindsets. Ilhiana is also a staunch advocate for the Hispanic community, serving in leadership roles like Chief Development Officer for the Association of Latino Professionals for America, Boston chapter, co-founder and president of United Latinas, and former vice president for the National Wellness Institute. Her many accolades include, but not limited to, being named this year as one of the top 100 Latinas by Latino Leaders magazine, and receiving awards like the 2023 Procter & Gamble Alumni Diversity and Inclusion Award, the 2023 Top Coaches Award by WAMEL, and in 2022, she received the Women in Business Stevie Gold Award. A Cornell Certified Diversity and Inclusion Expert and an International Coaching Federation Associate Certified Coach, Ilhiana brings a global perspective, a deep passion for empowerment, and an impressive track record of driving growth and innovation. Please join me in welcoming such an accomplished leader, and thank you so much for being here and sharing your time and expertise with us here today, Ilhiana.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you everybody for being present here today. I know that in this fast-paced environment where it feels like, time is what we don't have, the fact that you decided to create space during your day to be present here today, I couldn't be more grateful for all of you to be here. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you, Lisa, for allowing me to be here. Like you say, I'm Ilhiana Rojas Saldana. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and I'm just honored to be here. And I would love to start with a reflection because it's always important to ground ourselves in where we are so that we can then start crafting our journey to where we're going to be. So I would love to give you some time to just quickly think about, and you can write this down or just think about them. I prefer writing them down because it gives you perspective. But what if I asked somebody that knows you very, very well, right? This is somebody that you've interacted with for many years. And I asked them to share with me a couple of words, maybe a phrase that describes you. I'm asking them about you. What do you think they would say? Just write a couple of words. What do you think would come in their minds? And if nothing comes to mind, that's okay. This is just an initial reflection moment. We'll have more. Now, I want you to think about somebody that knows you but maybe you have not worked with them for quite some time, or you interact with them, but not so frequently. So they know you, they know who you are, but not as close as the first person. What if I ask them to share a little bit about you? Like, again, one reflection question that describes you. What do you think they would say? And again, just write a couple of words down. Now, finally, what if I asked you to write and to tell me about yourself? Again, just one sentence, a couple of words that describe who you are and what you do. What would you say? And the important thing about this reflection, and hopefully it's not just your title and your role, because we're so much more than that, is are all of these uh, sentences or words about you, are they all aligned with who you are? Or do different people say different things? And even more importantly, are they the words that you want people to say about you as you move forward in your career? Is this the legacy that you want to leave in terms of how people remember you, how people experience you, what people say about you when you're not in the room? And that becomes really important because that's exactly what self advocacy is all about. Because when we don't control our own narrative of who we are, then we are allowing others to control the narrative and to shift it around in a way that maybe sometimes serves us, but maybe sometimes it doesn't. Because self advocacy is that ability to be able to articulate clearly who we are, what we do, what we need, and what we want to accomplish. And it's an integral part of being able to achieve our objectives, our career path, whatever we want to accomplish in the future. It is important that we gain that clarity and that we're able to communicate it and transmit it accordingly, because when we do it right, then everybody is aligned. But when we don't, like I shared, then we are providing people with giving people control of the narrative of who we are. Now, when I started doing this work many, many years ago, and I'm going to use an example of one of my clients. Obviously, I've changed the name of the person, but you're going to see the difference in how to accomplish this. Now, this is a person that is caring. When we were starting this work, I told her, what do you think people say about you? And we asked around what people were saying about her. And they said, she's caring, she's thoughtful, she's always there for you, she's always helping others, and is very reliable. So when I shared it with her, she was like, oh, like, yes, that's so nice that people are saying these very nice things about me. And then I said, that's wonderful, but do you think that that's going to get you promoted? And that took her back because she was like, actually, I don't think so. If I look at it from another lens, I mean, it's definitely somebody that I want to work with, that I want to have in my team. But when it comes for that big opportunity, for that big next step, I'm not sure that I would make the cut. So we started to work on her positioning, on her brand, or on the things that she would talk about herself. And this is what we came up with. Maria is a strategic thought leader and seasoned expert in cybersecurity and agile methodologies. She is a calculated risk taker, passionate about helping others thrive. We're talking about exactly the same person, because actually she is extremely accomplished. When you look at the long list of her experience, her expertise, her 25 years in the industry, Maria is up there. but she wasn't getting promoted. She wasn't getting being seen. She wasn't getting into that next level because she wasn't advocating for herself in a way that served her. So, as you think about it, as you see the difference between the first example and the second example, you can start seeing the difference in terms of how we need to start thinking about ourselves and sharing about the genius, our zone of genius, and the value that we bring to the table. Now, I know that I'm probably preaching to the choir to many of you, and many of you understand that the power of self-advocacy is critically important. However, it's really hard to do. And research shows that over 80% of people, especially women, struggle with the situation of advocacy. We struggle with all of these limiting beliefs that stops us from being able to do it. Now, in doing this work and going through hundreds and hundreds of trainings and coaching people, I realized that there are two main things that stop us because it's important that we recognize what is holding us back so that we can then overcome it and move forward. About more than half of it has to do with emotional situations, fears, and part of it is rational. Some of them have to do with fear of judgment or anxiety. What are people going to say about me if I put myself out there, if I talk about me, right? The fear of being labeled aggressive or being labeled braggy. 80% of women suffer from imposter syndrome at some point and or several times throughout their career, or even the guilt of, oh my God, I'm talking about me, and this just feels awkward, and that stops us. For many of us, it just feels uncomfortable and it goes against our nature, especially if you're like me, an introvert. I still, when people read my bio at the beginning, I still cringe and look up and like grab my hands and I'm like, they're talking about me, but it just feels uncomfortable, right? It might go against our nature or it puts us in the spotlight. I've had several clients that just say, I just don't like to be in the spotlight. Like, put me back, I'll do my job and I'll do it excellent, but I don't want the spotlight to be shined on me. And all of these creates all of these emotions and all of these fears that, in a way, are holding us back to be able to share the genius that we have within us and the positive impact that we create in the world. Now, on the other side, there's also the rational side of our brain, right? The thought about it seems redundant. My work should speak for me. And I've said this many times in the past when I was in corporate. Like, if I just like sit down and work hard, people are going to notice and that's going to be enough. Like, as an introvert, why do I have to go and let people know what I'm doing? Or maybe you already want to do it, but you're really not sure where to start or what to say or how to do it in a way that feels comfortable to you, and therefore we just don't go about it. Or maybe we don't have the time, right? It feels like every day we have something else, and therefore we don't do it. We put it to the side, and maybe tomorrow, and 5 years later, we're still in this situation. Or, and I've heard this and I've said it myself also in the past, like, I've done great until now. Why start? Why do I need to go through this and just like keep things going? Now, whatever it is that stops you, it is important, and there will be a workbook that will be provided to you where you can do all of these exercises just to reflect what's stopping you from advocating and moving forward in this area, because it's not until we understand what it is that we can do something about it and see how real it is and how it's impacting us so that we can then shift and move forward. Now, as you heard, I started my career over 25 years ago after I graduated from chemical engineering and went straight into marketing. Now, how that happened, that's for another story. But the reality is that for the next 10 years, I just successfully grew in marketing positions in Fortune 500 companies, and I was on a roll. I got promoted every other year. I got bigger brands, bigger businesses, bigger opportunities, bigger impact, then moved into sales and continued to grow until finally I got into that executive position in the Fortune 500 that I was in. I was the youngest. I was the only woman. I was in that board suit and in that board me in that board situation, and I couldn't believe it. Right, I had made it there. And for a very long time, I thought it was my hard work that had gotten me there because I really did work very hard to be able to get to the place that I was in, and that my work was speaking for me. And maybe in some cases, I was just there in the right place at the right time, but the reality was that it had happened. But whatever this was, I was on a roll. What can I tell you? I had an amazing six-figure income. I was traveling around the world. I launched many brands and many successful products globally, many of which I'm sure you've all experienced or tried out or bought in some way throughout your lives. I even got to be selected in the list of the top 100 rising leaders in the company that I was in. To top it off, wonderful husband, beautiful kids, that still remains. I had the dream career. I was at the top of my game until I wasn't. You see, somewhere along the way, I got lost. I lost my voice. I lost my self-confidence. And no matter how hard I continued to work, I wasn't moving forward. I had to be honest, my career suddenly went to a standstill. And yes, there were like these little wins, obviously, but it wasn't to the extent that I had those first 15 years of my career. That led for me to be very frustrated, to be very upset. I started to blame everybody. I mean, how could my manager not support me? They knew how good I was. Like, why wasn't I continuing on for those opportunities? And then self-doubt started to creep in. Well, maybe I wasn't as good as I thought. Maybe everything had just happened by chance. And I continued to blame everyone. It felt that the more I spoke up, the more no one listened. It felt that I was always passed on for those opportunities. And it seemed that others were getting the credit for the work that I was doing. So I did what I thought I had to do, work even harder. But the reality was that I was no longer top of mind in those career conversations and big opportunities. You see, I let my introversion and my belief that my work would speak for me take over. I allowed the thought that I didn't want to come off as arrogant or braggy to become a reality. And I allowed the perfectionism that I didn't want to sound foolish if I spoke up to silence me. And many other of the common barriers and beliefs that I mentioned earlier, they just overwhelmed my day to day. And that created the silence of now not being top of mind and impacting dramatically my career at that point in time. Now, after a long and I have to say that I wish I could tell you that this happened for 6 months. Unfortunately, it happened for 5 very long and painful years. And after 18 months of deep reflection, because I'm an engineer, I had to go back and understand what happened, right? I came up with a framework that is what I'm going to share with you today, and is what I use with all of my clients in order to be able to reconnect with who they are and being able to stand proud and advocate for themselves without feeling that uncomfortable level, that uncomfortness, being uncomfortable. That's where the English escapes me. And it starts with your vision. right? And I'll take you through each one of these at a time. But it starts with a vision at the center because that's your GPS. It's knowing where you're going that gets you going. Then it's about embracing who you are, deeply, deeply embracing and being proud about who we are. Then we have to elevate our voice because if we don't let others know, then we become the world's best kept secret, and that serves no one. And then leverage our network because although we can do amazing things on our own, our network really becomes the echo to our voice. Now, before I give you actionable tips on each of these, it's very important that we first change the narrative in our heads and tackle the emotional side of all of these barriers that come up, all of these limiting beliefs. And there's a lot of experts like Sally Helgeson and Marshall Goldsmith that talk about how we need to change our narrative because whatever got us here is not going to help us to be able to move forward. So it's important that we answer the questions, what's really stopping me? What's stopping me from moving forward? What's stopping me from, feeling this way? What's stopping me from being able to advocate for myself? What's stopping me? And in a lot of cases, it's fear. What am I really afraid of? Because many of these sometimes they're just stories that we start playing in our heads. But when we start reflecting on them, maybe we realize that many of them, some of them may be real, but some of them might actually not necessarily be as true. And the one that normally I use with my clients that seems to unlock the difference is what am I losing by not advocating for myself? Because we definitely know what we're not gaining, we're not moving forward. But when we start to think about what we're losing, that might make it to be able to shift and say, okay, today I'm going to start. So let's talk about our vision because we don't know if we don't know where we're going, it's going to be very hard to get there. And our vision is like our GPS. Imagine like trying to go on a vacation and just saying, I'm going forward. If you don't know how to get there, if you don't know where you're going, it's going to be very hard to get there. Now, for our vision, this is something that I always ask my clients, like, what does success look like at the end of all of this? And it's not only about what's going to happen in, the next year or so, but it's what's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years from now. Because sometimes advocating for yourself is being able to ask for what you need to be able to get there. In those 5 years that I was stuck, I was clearly not letting people know what I wanted to do. Maybe I was just telling them, well, I want to get to the next step in my career. But in the end, that was not necessarily what I wanted to do because I didn't have that clarity of what that success could look like. Now, sometimes this question is very easy to answer. Sometimes it's very hard in terms of what success looked like and what success can look like 3 to 5 years ago. Don't feel like if you don't have the answer right now, you're going to get stuck there. You don't know what you don't know. However, if you start asking other people what their success looks like or what they've been doing or what their journey is about, then maybe you can get inspiration from there to be able to define, oh, that actually looks like something interesting. So don't feel the pressure that you need to have the answer to these questions right now. But I do want you to start reflecting on them. Another thing to keep in mind is what's important to you professionally. Maybe you're not exactly clear what role you want to have in the next 5 years, but definitely you can start reflecting in terms of what is important to you, what it is the thing that you're currently doing or that you're maybe not doing that is critically important for you to jump out of bed in the morning and being able to say, yes, like I love what it is. I love the impact that I create. What do you want to stand for? we sometimes start our career, not sometimes, we start our careers and we go in at it for some reason because we became passionate about something that we're doing. But somewhere, sometimes along the way, we just end up doing things because we become experts on it. But that doesn't mean that that's what I want to be, that doesn't mean that that's what I want to be stand for, right? So what do you want to stand for? And what is the impact that you want to create? So I'll give you a moment to think about this. Now, when I was working with a client and she was very frustrated in terms of not getting to where she was, I asked her, okay, well, where do you want to go? And she was like, well, obviously I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to be in this industry and in that industry. And actually, whatever comes my way, I'll just like do that. And that is a very common response that happens. And when we do that, then it's not going to be clear for people. How can they help us if they don't really know where we want to go? So we need to have first the clarity of what's important to us, where we're going to, for people then to be able to help us. Now, the second piece is about embracing who we are. For the most part, the majority of us, and maybe you can go back to your questions at the beginning and the reflections, is what are we good at? And we start going into our titles because that is normally what we tell people, right? I'm very good at this is my role, and based on this role, these are my skills, and I'm very good at analytical thinking, or I'm very good at programming, or I'm very good at bringing people together and collaboration and teamwork, whatever it is. But that's where we suddenly stop. But the reality is that embracing ourselves is taking us further. It's so much more. It's about thinking who we are at a deeper level from a values perspective. It's about recognizing what we love, what brings us joy, what's our purpose in the world, and how do we authentically and unapologetically bring value to the world. We need to stand proud of who we are from a holistic perspective versus just thinking about ourselves from a role, because the impact that we bring to the world, to the spaces that you're all in, is so much more. And part of the lack of self-confidence comes from not owning or not knowing how do we explain who we are. And we normally go around in circles trying to be able to find the words. But when we know those words, we can then tell people and feel proud about it with conviction. A mentor once told me, if you feel like a broken record, then you're doing it right. Because we are the only ones that keep listening to ourselves, listening to our stories. But the reality is that most people are just listening to it once or twice. So the more we become confident about sharing our story, the more authentic it will seem, the more confidence we will have, and the clearer it will be for others to be able to understand the value that we're bringing them to and how we can help them. So some questions that can help you reflect on this, for example, is how do you help others? What is your superpower? Everybody here has more than one superpower. And I like to think about it that way because when you think about superpowers, it goes beyond just a few skill set, right? It's the impact that you're creating, how you're transforming, how you're able to move the needle in a meaningful and long-lasting way. So think about what are your superpowers so that you can start believing and embracing your worth. What are your values? What is important to you? What do you love to do? What is your purpose? What brings you out of bed and in the morning? Because as you think about all of these things, that is the fullness that you bring. And very importantly, keep track of your accomplishments because as you look back, you'll be able to start finding a common thread to say, oh, this is actually what I'm bringing to others. When I was working with one of my clients a while ago, she in the nonprofit that she was in, she was known for the data person. Like she was the data guru. Everybody went to her because she was really good with numbers, and she was able to create all of these magnificent reports with research that told amazing stories that then the nonprofit could use to be able to do their work very effectively. But the reality was that because she was known for the data person, then the only opportunities that were opening up for projects and for initiatives that had to do with data analysis. And there wasn't really a lot of room for growth for her to be able to continue to create meaningful impact for the organization. And that led to a lot of frustration on her side because she couldn't see how she could grow there, and she really wanted to take that next level, but she didn't want to leave the organization that she was in. So as we started to craft and understand a little bit more about her, we realized that yes, she was very good at data analysis, but she didn't want to be known for that. It was something that I mean, she was just good at it, but it wasn't what led her to jump out of bed in the morning. And doing an analysis, we realized that she was very good at bringing people together. She was very good at talking to external, other organizations and build these unimaginable partnerships together that brought a lot of richness into the organization that she was in. But she was doing that on the side, like very casually, because suddenly, like that's what she liked to do. So as we crafted it further, there we found a path where yes, she was very good at data. Because she was very good at data, she was able to uncover all of these opportunities that they were synergies with all of these other organizations, and she crafted then her new role of being able to be that build those strategic partnerships and expand the organization in a completely new way that opened a path not only for the business that she was in, but also for her as a leader within the organization. And it was just believing in her worth beyond just being, known as somebody good at something very, not minimal, because it was still impactful, but just a part of her. So it's important that we believe in everything that we do and we see it from that bigger perspective. So as you go back to your words, I want to give you a moment to think about, to answer some of these questions, whatever comes to mind initially, because we need to have those self-reflections. And if you can share them in the chat so that we can start thinking about them and seeing them further, because when we have them in our heads, it's one thing. But when we start writing them and we start seeing them and reading from other people, magic truly happens because we're like, oh my God, like I'm really good at this. And the self-confidence of our words that's where the power comes from being able to share with each other. Somebody also once told me, another mentor, when things are based on fact, it's not bragging because they're facts. So as you write down, as you start thinking about them, they are facts. They are who you are. They're what you are, the value that you bring. So start thinking about it and sharing it in the chat, or keeping it yourself, but write it down somewhere.
We did have one comment in the chat, Ilhiana, from a few minutes ago. Lori, thank you for sharing your story. And that was a very
Thank you.
powerful story.
Thank you. Thank you. It did have a happy ending, or at least up until now. Okay. Now, the second piece of it. Let's do an exercise. This is all hypothetical, please. But what if I asked you to write a recommendation? Because I'm going to be delivering an award or making a public recognition to somebody, right? But I don't know this person. You know this person. So think about somebody that you know in your network, somebody that you know very, very well. And you need to write me a very detailed recommendation about why they deserve this award, why they deserve this recognition, because I don't know them, right? I'm just going to be delivering. Now, let's make the assumption this is going to happen. And I'm going to give you, 20 minutes to write down, 30 minutes to write down this recommendation. Now, this is somebody that you know very, very well. So you should be able to write down why they deserve this recognition. Would you be able to do it? Can you share it in the chat or raise your virtual hand? Do you think you'd be able to write this recommendation? And let's assume you have 30 minutes to be able to do that.
I see a few thumbs up.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, what if I told you, let's do a bigger exercise? What if I asked you to do it for 5 people? I'm going to give you more time, and let's assume you have more time, obviously, to be able to do that. But you need to write a detailed recommendation about them and, who they are and what they do and what their accomplishments have been and why they deserve this recognition. And these are people that you know very well, so you know they deserve the recognition. Do you think you'd be able to do that?
We have a few thumbs ups and a yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Now I'm going to give you even to after the holidays, because next week is Thanksgiving. So I'm going to give you a couple of weeks, but you need to do that for 30 people. And I hope, let's assume that you know 30 people that deserve this recognition because you've worked with them, you've been with them, so they deserve it. Would you be able to have, or let's say 15 or 20, just a larger number? Would you be able to write a detailed recommendation about why they deserve it, that they deserve this recognition? Do you think you would be able to do that?
Renee commented, I think it would be harder. It's a lot of details.
It's a lot of details, right? Absolutely. So I promote people every year, twice a year. I create a spotlight campaign, one for Women's Month, one for Hispanic Heritage Month. And I reach out, I select about 20 to 30 people because I want to create the full month to be able to spotlight them because I know that they've done amazing, they've created great impact, and they deserve the recognition. Now, I can't write the details of everything. I just know that they deserve it, right? So I need to reach out to them to say, hey, I'm going to do the spotlight campaign. Please provide me with the information so that I can spotlight you out there. I'm going to do all the work. You just need to feed me with your short bio, or like I send them even guidelines, like answer just these quick questions for me and do that. Every time it feels like pulling teeth because every time more than 50% of people come back and they share these like little like things, sentences that don't really encapsulate the amazingness that they create. And therefore, my team and myself have to go and look and search and write to the point that I think in the future, I'm just going to create a business out of it because we create these amazing bios and things for them because we know that they deserve the recognition. But if they don't tell it to us, then it's going to be not possible to be able to do that. And it happens the same thing the other way around, right? If we don't let other people know, if we don't let our leaders, if we don't consistently let people know about us, then they may want to help us, they may want to champion us. But if they don't have the information, it's going to be very hard to do. I now know that those 5 years that I mentioned, that I was lost and, I was upset and nobody was helping me. And how did it happen? A lot of it was me not letting them know, not giving them the information. And therefore, they were taking it upon themselves, many of them, because now I've had conversations after the fact, they were helping me, but in the way that they thought I needed help, not in the way that I needed help. But how could they know, right? Because I wasn't telling them, I wasn't advocating for what I wanted, I wasn't sharing my stories, I wasn't sharing, the accomplishments. I just assumed that they would naturally know because, my work is there. It should speak for them. But we can't. We may be able to do it for one person, but all of us, have to work with a lot of people, and trying to remember all of those details becomes hard. So advocating and championing people, it's hard to do if we don't share our journeys and our stories. Now, part of elevating,
Excuse
go
me.
ahead. Yes.
We
Tell
have a
me.
question, and if you want to take this in the Q&A, I know we're going to move into
That's
that in
fine.
about 16 minutes, but let me just share it with you and you can decide. So
Sure.
Charlotte asks, I'm curious if you have any advice for individuals working in an organization where promotions are very rare, or people working in roles that don't really have a clear ladder up.
Absolutely. And in the end, let me actually then put a hold on it, because I'm going to share a couple of strategies and tactics, and then because I'm going to reference to those tactics and strategies when I come back and answer the question, because I do have some thoughts around that, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Charlotte said, sounds good. Thank you.
Perfect. Amazing. So elevating our voice has to do with shifting our mindset from bragging and not feeling comfortable with ourselves to bringing value, right? From moving from letting people know what I'm bringing to the world, because that's how you serve others. All of you serve others in magnificent ways. I had a client that after one of these sessions, about 5 years ago, she came to me and she said, Ilhiana, like, I'm as introvert as you can do. I don't even have social media. I don't have LinkedIn. I don't have anything. This is the work that I do. And that's it. Like, I don't want anybody to not know about me, but I'm just doing my work and that's it. And after listening to you, I realized that I'm missing out on my calling in this world. And now I need to help you to help me. How do I put myself out there? Because through her work, she saves lives. And it's impressive, the work that she does. But it was limited to only word of mouth and the little space that she was in. So she was, stopping the world from knowing her amazing gifts to be able to help others. So as we worked through her and helped her, become more comfortable and put herself out there, today, 5 years later, she is one of the global recognized leaders in her field. The impact that she's created is, I don't know, 100-fold. I don't know. It's just a crazy, crazy number that she's gone through. Still goes back to her house, still goes like just working with being with her family, and that's it. But she's learned the power of embracing her voice and letting other people know how she can create, how she can change their lives, how she can have this amazing impact. And it's become so fulfilling. So it does need that the shift of that bragging feeling to I'm just letting people know how I'm bringing value to them is significantly different when you embrace that. And some reflection questions, for example, to think about is, what do people say about you, right? We just said it at the beginning in the first exercise. The people that you interact with, the people that you have contact with, they all have something to say about you. The question is, are they saying what you want people to say about you so that then you can grow? Do you come up in those conversations for new opportunities? Because you can be amazing, but if you're not top of mind, then you're not going to be positioned for those new opportunities like I was during those 5 years, right? I was clearly not top of mind for a lot of different reasons. How do you let others know about you and your work? If this is something that on a weekly basis you're not doing, and I'm going to share with you some examples on how to do it, then you're getting lost in the noise because there's a lot of noise today of all the things that are happening. How are people beyond your area of influence learning about you? Let's think about it. When you get at the beginning, when we start our careers, only our manager is the one, or maybe our manager and their manager are the ones that help us move forward, right? Because they're the ones that lead our career. But as we grow up in the ladder, it's between 10 and 20 or 30 people that are involved in our promotions or in the opportunities. And if the more people that know us within those key stakeholders, the larger the opportunity is for us to be able to then get those opportunities. So how are those people that are not directly involved with us learning more about us? And if we don't have a strategy, then it's going to be very hard for them to be able to champion us. And critically important, have you told people what you want as the next step in your career? If this is not a continuous conversation that continues to evolve with actions, with traction, in a consistent way, then the probabilities of getting to this, in the side are going to be very, very high. So all of these are things that you need to reflect as you move forward so that then you can establish a plan. Now, here are some tips on how to go about it. For example, be fully present in weekly meetings. And I've had a lot of clients that say, but I am fully present. I do speak up. No, this means all the time, in all of the meetings, in all of the sessions, right? This right here is a meeting. And the people that you're going to remember are the people that have the cameras on, the people that say something. Those are the people that you remember. So being fully present is always being involved. I had a mentor very early in my career. And like I said, I'm an introvert. So for me, putting myself out there, very uncomfortable. And my mentor said, Ilhiana, just know that in every meeting that we're together, I am going to turn around and I'm going to ask you a question or I'm going to provide space for you to come with a comment. And I was like, no, please. Like, I hated it because she always put me on the spot and I had to come up with something, right? The pressures of saying the right thing or doing something or asking the right question. But I so thank her for it because today I still have her in my mind in every place that I'm in. I'm always thinking about how am I going to contribute, right? Because now I know how I contribute and the value that I bring. So how am I going to contribute in the space? So being fully present in those weekly meetings is bringing value to those meetings, letting people know your thoughts, your experiences, your best practices, your learning opportunities, your curiosity, that becomes critically important. And that's how people start learning about you. Being proud and celebrate accomplishments. That can be very hard for many of us. But if we don't let others know about the wins that we've had, you all create big wins, or even if they're small wins, every week. Those need to be celebrated. Now, I know it's hard for many of us. Then have a bragging partner. Go into a meeting and say, hey, you know what, Lisa, why don't in this meeting I talk about how you did this, this, and this, and you can talk about how I did this and this, right? And then you have a bragging partner, and at least it doesn't feel as awkward, but we let people know and we celebrate. Or if you're a leader, create that space at the beginning of meetings to say, for the next 5 minutes, we're just going to celebrate everybody's accomplishments. Who has something to share? And you can celebrate each other and just provide those spaces because, again, it's a way to be able to let others know the magnificence of what you bring to the table. Take advantage of casual opportunities. Again, this is a beautiful casual opportunity where you might connect with people that you know regularly, but you probably can connect with people that you have never crossed paths with, right? But you never know the magic that can come from those connections. So maybe you can take a chance, scroll at the participants, send a private chat and say, "Hey, I'm just curious. Why don't we connect before the end of the year for a 15-minute casual conversation, a coffee chat, a virtual coffee chat, and just learn about each other? Would love to learn more about you and share about me." Again, you never know what might happen by those connections. So take advantage of those casual opportunities. Participate in those cross-functional volunteer high visibility initiatives. I know we all have a ton to do and we're always like just trying to deliver our day-to-day job, but I guarantee you if you can always carve a little 30 minutes, maybe once a month to participate in the something something with an ERG or with a group or doing something else, that will then create additional visibility to you with people that maybe you don't interact with regularly.
Ileana, we do have a comment and question.
Sure.
Ema shared, I was told many times I was not giving enough information about myself or not advocating about myself. I'm wondering if you have suggestions for folks whose English is the second language and might have barriers expressing themselves.
Oh, yes, a lot. Because English is my second language, so I can say. And I struggle. One, I'm an engineer, so words not my thing. Numbers, give me all the numbers. And second, English is my second language. So don't feel the pressure that you need to come up with all. I mean, you need to say it, but you don't have to come up with it with a vocabulary of what you need to say. Reach out to other people, people that you trust or people that you work with through your life, and ask them, "Hey, what would you say about me? Like what comes to mind?" Actually, in the workbook, there's an email template that you can use and that you can send out to 10, 15 people throughout your all walks of life to ask them exactly those questions and see what comes up. Because maybe from all of those narratives, you're able to say, "Oh, I actually had never thought about it." That's the exercise that I did with my client that I mentioned. And in some cases, especially for those of us that English is our second language, we don't have the vocabulary to be able to come up sometimes with those words because it's not our language. But when we hear it from others, they might express it in that way so that then we can, all of the words that are in my bio and that I talk about myself as being a maximizer and a connector, and a strategist and all of these things have come from words that other people have told me about myself. And then I'm like, "Oh, really? Like I'm a maximizer? I didn't thought about myself that way, but you're absolutely right. I am a maximizer." And now I'm able to say that with confidence because yes, it is, but the word did not come from me. The word came from somebody else. ChatGPT is also an amazing tool to use. I know that there's some things that we need to be very cautious about it, but it can also just be a tool to help you expand the vocabulary that we don't naturally have because English is not our first language. So hope that was helpful advice.
Ema said, thank you so much.
Perfect. And as I was saying, another strategy is presentations and speaking engagements. And it doesn't mean that you have to work on your next TEDx to be in front of 10,000 people. It just means always look for those opportunities on a weekly basis or a biweekly basis to be able to present to your team, to be able to present in a meeting, to be able to present in front of, a cross-functional team. Because as we present, that's how people get to know us even more, get to know our trains of thought, get to know our expertise, get to know our ideas. And therefore that creates this bigger sense. It's a way of advocating for ourselves without doing it so directly. So definitely another thing to think about. And finally, social media. We are in a digital world, whether we like it or not, whether we're fond of social media platforms or not. The reality is when we hear somebody's name, the first thing that 99% of people do is search it online. And normally the first or the second thing that comes up is our LinkedIn or our Facebook or one of our social media platforms. And if nothing comes up, then normally the perception of people is, oh, then they're not important. And it's not that you're not important, you're amazing. But if you don't let people know through social media or through digital platforms, they're not going to find out about yourself. So think about one person once told me that their goal, and they're always thinking about what is gonna be said in their Wikipedia page. And I was like, that's interesting. I had never thought about having a Wikipedia page. I don't have it yet, but I guarantee you that's on my to-do list because it will happen. So I'm always thinking, okay, then what's going to be said there, right? Because that's what people are going to reference, and that's how they're going to find out about you. So it's always important to keep that in mind and keep it present. And these are just some actions that hopefully you can take easily to start doing. Some you'll feel more comfortable, some will be a little bit, hard to do, but it just takes one step at a time and lean on each other or lean on a coach. I know that you have coaches also there in the institution. You can reach out to me, to others to help. Don't feel like you have to do this on your own, which leads me to the last piece of it. Leverage your network because success is very hard to achieve alone. Not impossible, but definitely harder than if we lean on each other. Now, I have to tell you and be honest with you. I, for 20 years in corporate, I would have preferred to have a root canal before building my network or going to networking events or leading. Like, no, again, remember, engineer, introvert, like, no, just the people that I knew, and that was good enough for me. But today I've learned that the only thing that I needed was to have a path, was to have a blueprint, was for somebody to show me how to do it in a comfortable way. So here's my recommendation to all of you to think about how to build your network. You're going to write 3 lists. The first list has to do with the people that you interact with regularly. Everybody in this call today has a network, right? So go through that network, think about those people, and think about who in that network can help you reach your goals, your short-term goals, your short-term, for the rest of this year, or maybe for the first half of next year. Who can be an advocate for you, who can help, elevate your voice, who can help you in all of these situations, and write their names down, because now you'll be able to reach out to them. You have a good relationship with them and start saying, hey, I want to do this, how can you help me, and how can I help you as well, because they're mutually beneficial relationships, right? So that's your first list that you're going to be writing. The second list, and you're going to write that as well today. Don't wait for well, maybe not today, maybe through the weekend, maybe even the beginning of December, but don't let much time go by. The second list is the people that you know, but that you don't have a strong relationship with. And it's just because like you came across their names, maybe you've met them in meetings for a couple of times, but you don't have that like deep relationship with that. So make a list of those people that you know are going to be important 2 to 3 years down the line. So who are those key stakeholders? The leader above the leader, the person that's influential in, certain career decisions, the person in HR, or all of these key stakeholders that are going to help you get into those midterm goals 2 to 3 years down the line, and make a list of who they are. Guess what? Because it's going to take you 2 to 3 years to build that strong relationship with them, right? Because it's not like you're going to get the phone tomorrow and say, hey, so and so, like, no, it's going to take time to be able to have a coffee chat, to have a casual conversation, and then meet somebody else, and then meet with them again in 6 months, and start having um, building that bond, right? But if you don't start now, if you don't identify it right now, it's going to be harder, because when you need them, guess what? Those 2 to 3 years are already going to be here. So that's your second list. And then your third list is the people that you should know. These are people that you currently don't know, or maybe you've heard, but whew, like they're very far removed from you. And it's important that you start thinking about them and researching, like, who are the thought leaders, who are the people, the change makers, or the people that are in those spaces where you want to be 5 to 7 years down the line. Because guess what? It's going to take you 5 to 7 years to be able to meet them. Now, 6 years ago, when I left corporate and I started to build my network, because like I said, my network was almost null. I started to reach out to people and started to tap into people. And I saw this woman online on LinkedIn, and she had this podcast and she was doing amazing things. And I was so inspired. And I was like, I'm going to reach out to her. We chatted, we connected, we had a great conversation. I was in her podcast. That turned into other opportunities of collaborations and partnerships. And that was in the span of about 3 or 4 years. Today, she is my business partner. We've established my second business, which is in partnership with her. And we're on a mission to impact 100,000 Latinas by 2030. And the ripple effects of that is going to be amazing. And who knew? It just started from literally a LinkedIn connection 6 years ago, and see where we are today. So start thinking about that list of people who you should know, because it's going to take you around that time. But once you get there, it's going to be amazing. So that's how you start building your network. And then finally, where do you find them? Within your company, within your industry or your institution. Don't stop just within the circle that you're in. Think about bigger terms, right? The world is very big and there's a lot of people that you can tap into. Join relevant organizations. I know that when I was again in corporate, that was my life, 9 to 5, not really 9 to 5, but you got my point. And then my family, and that was it. Today, I belong to over 20 organizations, and I love it because it's so the richness, the people that I find, the worlds that I learn about, the perspectives. It's just so rich. Join relevant organizations because you never know where that's going to take you. Attend networking events. Believe me, coming from somebody that hated them and now loves them, there's always a madness to how to go about it in a way that makes you feel comfortable. But somebody once told me, networking events, guess what? They are to network, and everybody there is to network. So don't feel as uncomfortable because everybody there is to make new connections, right? Join conferences like the ones that your institution has, because you never know who you're going to meet there. And definitely LinkedIn, it's the number one platform. Again, I know that some people love it, some people hate it, whatever. Wherever the space you are, at least make sure that your profile is up to date, and that you start building your connections there as well. And finally, just in building relationships, the key tip that I will share is it's about the other person. It's not, I mean, obviously it's about you, but to start a relationship, start thinking about the other person. Ask them, what are they doing? What's important to them? What challenges are they facing? That'll immediately start to open that burden of I need to come up with all the information to start a conversation. No, you just need to ask a couple of questions, then find the synergies, and then see how you can collaborate, or maybe there's something that brings you together. Maybe there's a connection that you can do, and maybe there's an opportunity to help them, and therefore there could be an opportunity to support you. But if you start with the other person, it'll make those connections easier. All you have to do, and it really starts with believing in you and being able to embrace and stand proud of your voice, of your achievements, of the magnificence that you bring to the world. And let the world know, because if not, the world is missing out on amazing impact that you can all create. Because life is not about who you once were. It's about the person you are right now and the person you have the potential to be. All you have to do is believe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ilhiana. Really appreciate you sharing your powerful story, your examples, these strategies, your framework. We have one more question in the chat. Maybe you can answer this, and then after that, we'll pause the recording. And then if anyone has any other questions they want to ask, they can unmute themselves or put in the chat. So this question is, what if we do all of these things and it still doesn't lead to promotion or advancement? Do you have suggestions for other things we could do or how to avoid feeling defeated or demoralized?
Absolutely. And what I would say is um, your network is critically important. Like when they ask me what's the one thing, like the one thing that people need to do when you only have space for one, your network. Like it's the number one thing. Because if you have mentors, if you have advocates, if you have sponsors, if you build that personal board of directors around you, there is no stopping you because they're the ones that are going to give you advice. They're the ones that are going to open doors. They're the ones that are going to break opportunities. They're the ones that are going to be transparent and candid with you and provide you valuable insights on how to navigate situations. And there are situations, because I've had clients in these situations, that even though they try to build that network within like their spaces, there's not enough either people or time. Then don't think about it that way. Go externally, because people sometimes from the outside can provide valuable insights on how you can then break space within the space that you're in. So don't limit that network to just your current environment or your current space, but network is the number one thing that will help you and will lead to promotion and advancement. Like absolutely. And if you're still struggling, reach out. There's in the workbook, there's a link to schedule a 30-minute, a 20-minute consultation with me. So happy to have that conversation in more detail. Absolutely.
Wow, thank you so much, Ileana. I understand that's a complimentary consult. So after people take that assessment or look through the workbook, they can have a conversation with you about that. So thank you. And I will follow up and share with everybody the workbook in an email. I did put a link to the evaluation in the chat. And I'll go ahead and pause the recording from here and see if we have any other questions for our remaining 5 minutes.